guys, afternoon. Very nice to be here. Honored to be moderating this panel with our fellow panelists. Brief intro myself, Moshe Shen. I'm based in Singapore. I'm with Wintermute Trading. So we're a crypto native market making firm, HFT firm, and we do quite a bit in OTC trading as well. But this panel, very different to what I'm doing day to day. I'm very interested to introduce you to our final panelist. So I want to actually set a scene for you first before we start. So imagine living in a world where your access to financial service is limited, but not because your ambitions were ethics, but by lack of infrastructure. Right? So you can't get a loan, you can't build a credit, you can't even access internet. I'm assuming that's probably quite foreign to many of you, but it is to actually quite a lot of people, probably billions of people around the world. So that's actually reality here to emerging markets. So what if it's possible for blockchain to hold the key to changing this? So we're here to explore how that has happened, how it could happen, and how we're going. So I'd like to introduce you to our final panelists to introduce themselves and what they're doing.
Hi, I'm Tae Oh. I'm founder of Creditcoin and also CEO of Glua. And we have been building with blockchain technology since 2012. We announced a project Creditcoin in 2017 and launched our first blockchain in 2019. And we recently launched our third version of Creditcoin successfully, as far as I know, for now. Now it's the EVM from app chain or L3. It became an L1 with EVM compatibility. In addition to that, we are building universal smart contract on top of it, allowing people to access information across chains. And we recently announced a project called SpaceCoin that's not only connecting between blockchains to blockchain, but now providing connectivity for 38% of unconnected people around the globe.
Hi, I'm Akin Jones. I am the founder of Aella. Aella is a diversified credit infrastructure and a bank. So I'm the founder of Aella, and I'm the chairman and founder of Aella Bank. So Aella is broken into two. There's the tech part of the business, and there's the bank part of the business. Last year, we acquired a bank, and so we do carry out banking services now for the underbanked. We've given out over $100 million in loans to over 2 million people. We're one of the first, if not the first, African company admitted, lending company admitted into Y Combinator. And as a person, I'm one of the very few individuals who's completed 3 of the top accelerators, which is Y Combinator, 500, and Techstars. So, or called Tech Lab, for lack of a better word, before it became Techstars. I'm very versed in the startup world. My prior experience was in investment banking, actually, so I started my career at what Covey Securities, now Wells Fargo, in the TMT, Telecom Media and Communications Group, advising billion-dollar companies on different transactions, on different types of merger transactions, different types of transactions. So I'm very versed in a wide array of things, be it technology, be it banking, and now we're partnered with Glua, and it's been the sky's been the limit since then. We've been rapidly growing, and we're very optimistic about being able to provide access to finance to the next billion people in underserved markets.
Perfect, amazing. So let's start with the original story of Creditcoin, Glua, and Aella. What inspired both of you to create these platforms, and why did you believe that blockchain is the answer to the challenges that we see?
So the idea of Creditcoin started when we were both going through 500 startups, now rebranded to 500. We were both batch 19. And Aella was very interesting for me because everything sounds so great until it wasn't. So, Aella had already had a couple of hundreds of thousands of users. Their loan book was growing rapidly, and their default rate is very low, below 5%. And all sounds so great, but Aella was also having trouble raising capital from traditional financial institutions. And it boggled me because with all this track record, it should be very easy for a fintech lender, which was in developed markets, to raise from financial institutions. And Akin and I both discussed this problem over and over, trying to dissect the problem. And one of the key missing piece was there was a lack of credit in this market because of most, if not all, of the borrowers that's getting serviced by Aella was unbanked or underbanked. The credit transaction that they were generating was siloed within Ella's database, and that transaction records were not creditworthy to the eyes of the financial institution, and this was a data objectivity problem that I thought blockchain, which is built to provide objectivity layer in digital world, was a perfect solution to solve this problem. Hence, I proposed the idea of Creditcoin to Akin, and we have been building this system together ever since.
Yeah, I think he hit the point on the head. I think for us, it was trying to solve something I like to call the tape problem, which is we were facing something called, transparency was a big issue for us. How do we know that people are who they say they are? How do we create a transparent lending system? And then there were problems around access too. How do we build better access for our customers? And then pricing. We had to reduce pricing. We're borrowing money at very expensive rates, and we had to find ways to drive that down. And lastly, we had to educate our customers not just on taking a loan, but just the entire credit system, what it was like to build a credit score, what it meant to build a credit score, and how that credit score could help them better their lives, be it for healthcare, be it for education, or be it for any other needs they would have going forward. Yeah.
Actually, following to Akin, so scaling Aella to, you mentioned like hundreds of millions of loan. I think you mentioned that 2 million microloans, which are pretty impressive in the past few years. I mean, what are some of the key challenges that you experienced, you encountered during that time? What was your biggest takeaway, and also what was some of the tangible results that you've witnessed?
I would say some of our biggest challenges came from, I think, the challenges that most lenders face. I think the first one is, the first one was a pool of you first had to decide what kind of capital you needed. So the first one was access to capital. How do we get the right kind of capital in the business? Because there is capital, and there was different capital providers, but how do you get the right kind of capital, understanding that you're in a market where inflation is present, devaluation is present, the Nigerian currency and various African currencies in the last year or two have lost about 40 to 50% of their value. So how do you get the right, kind of capital in? So diversified pools of capital. The next was our credit scoring system. So how do we price in risk? How do we determine, and these are some of the problems we had to face. So how do we determine that A is a good borrower and B is a bad borrower when they're in rural areas, when they're in areas without proper technology, access to internet? How do we get a hold of these people? How do we evaluate them for being good borrowers if they don't have like a proper track record or a proper credit score? So that was the second thing we had to solve for. And then the last was just distribution, which was, I'd say, was actually kind of easier initially. Customer acquisition costs were much cheaper back then. And so it was easy to actually just build a business and rapidly scale it and distribute the product to millions of people. Yeah. So I think those are the three key problems we were trying to solve for. Yeah.
And going through that, you've overcome these problems. What are some of the results that you've seen or impact that you see in the community that you've lent to?
I think one thing we've seen our education loan product really grow. I think that's pretty much one of our fastest growing products. And when I say education loans, we have something called a jackpot syndrome, and it's really when people want to run away from the country and go better their lives in the West. And they usually are looking for loans to do that. They're usually looking for loans for education. And we've also seen a spike in healthcare loans. During COVID, we launched like an insurance loan product to help people deal with the COVID pandemic. And that was a really fast growing product. I think in our first month of that, we had about 30,000 signups. So we've seen various key unique pain points for people help us scale. Yeah.
No, I think there's definitely a real product market fit there. There is definitely demand side of this. I mean, my next question is to Tae. We mentioned earlier how we can see using blockchain to overcome some of these hurdles. Now, what are there some unique opportunities that specifically that blockchain can unlock these technologies that other technology cannot, maybe Web 2 technology cannot? Can you share some specific examples?
Right. So blockchain allows people to work trustlessly. When you're creating a decentralized network, when you cannot know or trust anybody in the ecosystem, being able to work trustlessly is a key. Before blockchain, that wasn't possible. Every transaction that you made, especially financial transaction, you had to trust the counterparty. But now with the blockchain, you can work with them without having to trust the counterparty, allowing financial services or now recently the DePIN trend has been coming up. That's also being that's enabled by blockchain technology.
So with your recent upgrade of Creditcoin to be a EVM L1, so what new opportunity does that open to developers building on your?
Right, good question. So since we are now upgraded from L3 to L1, it being EVM compatible, that means now we can support various types of loans and other types of business opportunities, and not just a bullet loan that we have been servicing with Creditcoin 2 and 1. And this allows us to, for example, tokenize the loan book that we're generating of our Creditcoin, and also create bond market, and also you can create a more diversified DeFi solutions. And in addition to that, when the universal smart contract is being enabled, the developers on the smart Creditcoin can now accept payments from various other blockchains. So, for example, it's possible to get a loan borrowed in Solana Tether, and then but get repaid in Ethereum Tether.
Yeah, I mean, I think the one thing we've also seen from the crypto native side is actually credit is pretty tough, even for institutions like us. So we are our business, we borrow usually uncollateralized. So probably a different type of a business to them. We borrow uncollateralized, and these are pretty difficult to borrow in crypto. Whereas in bank, I guess in TradFi you do have various established products from the banks to issue that, but as Akin mentioned earlier, it's about finding the right supply of capital and connecting to the demand side, which often there's not anyone that wants to lend directly to these micro businesses. So going into some of the real world challenges that we've seen, from your perspective, what are some of the major legal and regulatory hurdles that Glue will face, especially facing, for example, a country like Nigeria or facing the central bank, and how do you navigate some of these challenges?
I think we've helped Fluid navigate some of the local challenges. I think in terms of trying to partner with the central bank and getting an MOU to partner with the central bank, it was a very symbiotic relationship. I think the core issue the central bank was facing was how does it grow its CBDC, and one thing that we knew was going to scale in the country was loans. And who's better at loans and blockchain, the loans blockchain combination in Africa than Glua and Creditcoin? And so the question was, how do we sell that to them? How do we sell the prospect of being able to, of our technology being able to solve that problem for the CBDC? And it's a work in progress. It's not an overnight thing, because it's not an easy thing to try to push a new technology to a government. And so it's not like we're trying to force it down their throats. It's kind of like a lot of push and pull. And so we're very optimistic that soon people will be able to see the fruits of that labor come to fruition. But a lot of it has to do with patience, because when you're working with government bureaucracies, you have to understand that you just have to be patient while things get solved. And so when you ask for challenges and hurdles, I think the hurdle is understanding that a startup works with speed, but governments actually have to work with process. And so that process is very important to put together and understand that that happens. Yeah.
Also, it really helps when you have a local partner that you can trust, because while we're in blockchain trustless business, because while Nigerians speak English, that doesn't mean they speak your English, and the way to navigate the cultural relationship is very subtle, and us being partner with Aella helped us navigate all that.
Is there any ambition to move to other countries within Africa?
So we are already exploring other countries, expanding to other countries. So we picked Nigeria from African continent because Nigeria is the most populated country in Nigeria, also the most largest GDP. We are now currently in talks with major companies in India and Indonesia. India being the most populated country in South Asia, and Indonesia being the most populated country in Southeast Asia. That's what we are targeting, basically the most populated country in each region. And yeah, we want to replicate our success and progress that we had in Nigeria in all those regions.
Perfect. And I'm actually moving on to the upcoming launch of Spacecoin. I know we had a panel yesterday, but I'd love to see how do you come up with this idea for the panelists, for the audience today? How do you see this as a key project to help these countries like Nigeria, India, Indonesia?
So the idea of Spacecoin came up naturally as we were serving underserved people in emerging markets. A lot of unbanked people are actually unconnected also. So that we were exploring options how to work with them. So we initially looked into solutions like Starlink, but Starlink wasn't an option because it's very expensive, especially for people in the emerging market. You need about $600 to buy a ground station, and you need to pay about $450 per month for subscription fee. The average GDP per capita in emerging markets are typically around $2,000 to $3,000 per capita. So Starlink wasn't an option there. And then we also realized since the innovation of SpaceX and the commoditization of the aerospace industry, it became really cheap for a small company like us to deploy a satellite. Also, things were getting more standardized. So now building satellites, more or less like building a PC back in the 90s, or maybe early 2000. Not that easy, but somewhat like that. So we saw this as an opportunity and explored if we can build a constellation of satellite and provide connectivity from space. And we concluded that this was actually possible, and also at the same time, we were seeing demands from emerging markets in Nigeria, Indonesia, and India that they wanted to have programs like this, but they weren't really successfully locally. So that when we approached the government bodies and telcos in these regions, they were very interested in working with us, so that we also saw the market opportunity. For rough estimation, about 37% around the globe are unconnected. So there was a huge market opportunity there too. So we saw this as an opportunity, so that we started developing the technology with a small team internally. And then when we finished the design and manufacturing technology, we decided to announce it to the public.
Okay, super interesting. And this is for both of my panelists. So given the advancements, what are some of the next big innovations that we can expect from both of your companies? And how do they align with the broader mission of social impacting?
I'll start. So the vision and mission of Glua is building a borderless infrastructure. And basically, we want to connect everyone, and maybe in the future, everything. That's why we were building Creditcoin in the first place, to connect the people from the developed world to emerging market. And with the upgrade to Creditcoin 3, we are now connecting blockchain to blockchain. And with Spacecoin, now we're connecting the unconnected to the digital economy. We want to continue down on the path of connecting more people and everything, and basically we believe when people are connected, they do great things, and more value is generated.
I think for us, it's building the digital bank of the future for Africa. I think first things first, digital collateralization is key. A lot of loans were uncollateralized, but now we've realized the need for collateral now that we're a bank and we're heavily regulated. And so figuring out ways to build new advanced ways to digitally collateralize for the unbanked is number one. And number two is using artificial intelligence to really make the customer experience better for your end users. I think the Nigerian banking system actually leapfrogged a lot of banking systems across the world because we had the opportunity to build our own rails. And that's why when you hear fintech globally, Nigeria always comes up because I don't think there's a lot of companies where you've heard of so many unicorns like the Flutterwaves, the Paystacks, companies that have raised billions of dollars in an African country. And I think it's because the banking system, in terms of technology, has really leapfrogged. And so the question is, what's the next step? And I see a step of how can you collateralize easily for the unbanked. And allowing that allows you to give out more loans and create more access to credit. As we always say internally, credit is a human right. And so as long as we can continue to build technologies for that, we can continue to solve that problem. Yep.
So I want to double click a little bit into that. So what are some of the things that, if I'm a household or I have a small business, I need to collateralize with you to get, my $5,000 worth of loan to extend my business?
Yeah, I think it's all about documentation. I think if you have a proof of payment for certain services, or you show us that you pay for certain things every month, and you can just upload that, that can serve as a digital collateral. Or that you bought a car, and you have documentation for that. So I think there's an opportunity too for companies that are scanning information and building all these to integrate with fintechs over the next couple of years to build that kind of digital collateral tool, because it's not only going to be a problem in Africa, it's going to be a problem globally. As you can see, global default rates are skyrocketing because of the current inflation crisis globally. So building digital collateral will create more responsible lenders versus irresponsible lenders that are just trying to build all these BNPL products that might lead people into further debt. So responsible lending is actually going to be very key going forward. Yep.
Perfect. 100% agree with that. I know we're reaching near the end of my questions. I didn't prepare that many, but but any kind of last thoughts, any last comments from either my panelists? And I'd like to finish with one prediction, maybe related to your company or business, or maybe completely irrelevant, but one prediction you have for next 6 or 12 months.
I'm really bad at short-term prediction. So I believe blockchain. I believe blockchain is great at data, objective data especially. But I don't believe there's a lot of hype around AI and blockchain. But I don't necessarily believe blockchain is built for AI or useful for AI directly. But I think there's a market for blockchain to be integrated with AI as a data provider. If somebody figures out the tokenomics all around that, I think that can be really interesting.
I think we saw a lot of lenders collateralize using cryptocurrency. I think that was done in the wrong way. I think the future still lies in cryptocurrency and the blockchain. I think it all stems from emerging markets and the unreliability of all their currencies, and a lot of the countries, and so the future is going to create a system where we are all going to spend Bitcoin. Our kids are already using Roblox. Our kids are already spending digital currency. So the future is in digital currencies. So I see a situation where there are going to be more products built around digital currencies. The real world use cases for things such as CTC, BTC is going to continuously increase. The real question is, can you stand the test of time to build a real world use case on your product? And I know a lot of cryptocurrencies out there are just fly by night, but you look at something like CTC, it's been around now for close to 6-7 years, and it's been building steadily, learning the hard lessons that nobody else wants to learn. People just want to push up a price, but we're actually building a real product that, if implemented in other markets, is going to be a real game changer. And it's a slow, painful grind. So the future is going to be in the cryptocurrencies that know how to really apply real-world use cases. They're going to win, and that's in the short term. I'm telling you, 12 to 24 months, we're going to see some big winners. Yeah.
I'll probably finish my prediction as well. Tagging to Tae's point about AI.
What should I buy?
The UI or non-mentional advice. I think the next millions of users probably will come from gaming. some sort of mini app that is very easy to unramp. Like Ton's doing a great job, Telegram's doing a great job with all of the mini apps that probably come with. But over longer term, these crypto users or DeFi users will probably be AI agents that runs in the background, as you said, connecting to decentralized systems, but actually running nodes using AI. And there might be in the future a lot of our decision making in the financial system could be done with AIs. And it's probably, my view, a lot more dangerous if it's run by centralized venues than decentralized venues. So that's probably why a blockchain or decentralized parties can work together with AI. But I think we're still very, very early days. None of them got their tokenomics quite right yet. But hopefully there'll be some interesting project that come out of this.
Someone will figure it out and become rich.
Exactly. 6 years later, there'll be a panel say, six years ago, this panel, they called it first.
Yep.
Perfect. No, thank you all. Thank you so much. Thank you for audience. And if you have any questions for our panelists, you know where to find us.
Yep. Right.
Are we opening it up? Or
Thanks for everyone coming. And if you have any questions, you can find us after this call. After this panel.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.